Today on Space Stuff by Teenage Astronaut, we are going to be talking about the 29th of May, 2020, a very explosive day for those of you who don't know. By the way, today I'm trying a new recording setup involving a microphone. I'm actually going to be holding it instead of having it set up on a stand, because I think it works much better. So today we're going to be getting right into that just in a minute. Hello, I'm Joe the Teenage Astronaut. Welcome to another Space Stuff by Teenage Astronaut. I'm going to start in that newish intro talking about the 29th of May, 2020, an explosive day. Literally the title of my article on this thing. Also on my website, teenageastronaut.weebly.com. Definitely should go check it out. I got links on there, talking about upcoming launches, got articles, all of that stuff. Link in the description of the YouTube video and the actual podcast episode. Today I'm talking about Ascent4, and I wanted to just right before I get into it, this episode was originally meant to be a, kind of anniversary episode coming on the 29th of May, but due to problems involving, it being June, and I'm a teenager, so I have school, it's the end of the school year, I had stuff to do, wasn't able to do it. So I'm doing it today. This episode will likely be coming out on Saturday for both. If it's after Saturday and this just came out, and that means something happened, I wasn't able to do it out on time. So, I would love to get right into the actual video part, but my video stuff isn't loading. As normal, most or all of my footage today will be coming from NASAspaceflight.com. Link to the video and what's not in the description. The next episode will be back to normal. I'm only going to be doing episodes like this every once in a while for some special occasion. Like, for instance, my birthday episode, which will be the July 17th episode. I'll be talking about the Apollo-Soyuz project, as it did its actual docking on my birthday, just about 30 years before I was actually born. Today, I'm doing this episode like this, because it's the 10th episode, so I thought I'd have fun with that. But, yeah, so, why are we not moving? Ooh, loading now. Huzzah. Okay, we are going to get right into this. So, here we are, on the 29th of May, 2020. This is during propellant loading operations. All the very specific times or whatnot. So, if you want two things, very specific and very quick read, go to the article on my website, as I have the specific times everything happened. I have some of my thoughts on it, the effects, all that, in the article. This episode is just gonna be this podcast episode is just gonna be looking at it, my thoughts about it, and how it affected the Starship program. So this is during propellant operations. I definitely recommend you go and actually watch the stream, as this is when NASA spaceflight wasn't that old, so they hadn't been doing much. They haven't been doing shit for that long, so, the insane system they have today, they did not have back then. Also, the siren just went off in this thing, so yeah, we're gonna kind of skip to this actual static file. Where was the static file? So, at 1:47 p.m., the static file code SN4 static file disruptor engine for the fifth and final time. Immediately after the D+ event, back then and even still today, this is just normal operations. It is a static file, then it starts a D+. Now, for those of you who are wondering, that thing on the right side of the screen, that's the flare stack. That is what was used instead of the recondenser for a very long time. Until it, got taken down. So yeah, that was what was used to get rid of the methane. What happened is it would get carried out of the vehicle and burned off instead of just getting put out into the atmosphere for most of it. Nowadays, it goes into the recondenser, which is just behind these three water tanks right here. Now, as you know, today, the pad area does not look like this whatsoever. SN4 is on suborbital pad A. If you don't know, there are two suborbital pads. You have suborbital pad A, this one. This is this one. This is suborbital pad A. It's a little suborbital pad B, which you can actually see right there, as it was just being constructed during this time. After this incident, also talk about my suborbital pad A involving this incident, and because of that, though, all test flights and everything pretty much until SN10 had to be done on suborbital pad B, as they fixed stuff involved over here. So the second flight record, everything was looking good. It was actually, everything was good for a couple of minutes, in fact. You know, no requests, blah 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 on the stream if you don't know. But then, suddenly at 1:49 p.m., this happened. The timing on that. There was a massive uncontrolled vent coming from the bottom of the vehicle, believed by me and others, and I don't know if it's confirmed or not, I should have done more research, believed to be a popped hose that had popped hose of the GSE equipment, the ground support equipment. At first you would think it can't be methane, as it would be exploding in that flare stack. Well, long story short, it was very likely methane, because this went on for literally seconds. Seconds after it started, this happened. Wait, about... I know it was seconds after I did the article on all this stuff, like a week ago. There you go. Like 10-20 seconds later, the entire thing exploded in a massive fireball. Just massive fireball. Now we're gonna look at the scene. If you can't tell, the flare stack was knocked offline in the explosion, as it is no longer burning the methane. The reason that's a problem is not for you environmentalists out there. The reason that's a problem is because that flare stack links directly to all of those tanks over there. All those tanks over there links directly to it. So you can probably guess what happens, you know, if that massive fireball were to heat that methane just pulling out of the flare stack enough for it to catch fire, crawl through the flare stack, and hit those massive tanks of liquid oxygen and methane and just explosion. So what also happened here, though, apart from the fact going offline, the pad, as you can tell, was obliterated, tore to pieces. It was wrecked. Because of this, like I said earlier, all tests pretty much after this need to be on suborbital pad B, which also meant they couldn't do any tests until it was done, and at this time, SN5 was nearing completion in the mid-bay. So, like, that was a problem. The chances of them having a vehicle sitting doing nothing for a while, that doesn't sound familiar, does it now? Was somewhat high at the time. Luckily, they got suborbital pad B done pretty quickly. SN5 could get on it, do its test flight and whatnot. As you know, stuff followed it and all. But what also happened, I don't know if you can tell, but that water tank on the right closest to the pad is leaking water. Unwantedly. Like, it is pulling water out. Because a piece of debris, most likely, struck it in the side. Oh, most likely struck it in the side. Struck it in the side. Causing it to just leak everywhere. All the leakage. So, the effects this had, there were effects it had, as all massive floods like this would. But also, before we do that, though, I do actually want to talk about the vehicle itself, because SN4 before this did some very big milestones. Big milestones. For instance, all test vehicles before it, and by the way, for this next section, I'm not talking about Starhopper. I'm not counting Starhopper. I'm talking like actual Starship prototype. Starhopper is actually more of a Raptor test thing than an actual Starship test thing. What happened was SN4 was the first to successfully cryogenic proof test as Mark 1 failed its cryogenic proof test, SN1 failed its cryogenic proof test, and SN3 imploded as it failed to its cryogenic proof test. So it was the first to survive its cryogenic proof test, and because of that, was also the first to successfully static file. In fact, it had 5 successful static files. Yes, I said 5. As the static file will later be found out to not be the cause whatsoever to this incident. In fact, it was the ground support equipment failure that caused the accident, not the actual static file. We'll also have 5 successful static files, which was the most for a little bit. It didn't last that long though. As SN8 had a lot, SN9 had a lot. Yeah. So, SN4 was a successful vehicle, but also really this is a test program. All vehicles, unless they explode on their first ever test ever, all successes. I mean, look at SN9. That thing's test flight failed horribly. You would think, but it didn't. It went very well, even though it exploded at the end. But yeah, SN4 was an interesting vehicle. I did not watch any of this when it happened, as I did not get into really spaceflight at all like I am today until SN8. I was in a spaceflight off and on for a while, but not trying to watch every single launch I can, like I am today. Which about that, I actually have a thing involving that at the end of today's episode. I have a thing involving rocket launches. So, here's the thing, right? SN4, I didn't see it. I don't know a lot about it, because I didn't see it. But what I do know, it was fairly successful. Now I want to talk about this test's effects on the rest of the program. So, it exploded, destroyed support of Pad A, meaning it was not going to fly until SN10, but it also taught them some things. As, since this, an explosion like this hasn't happened since. Has not happened since. As they obviously learned something now. Now, have they had ground support equipment failures? Yeah, they have. They've had valves in the tank foam fail. They've had actually the same thing in the post popping off before happened. They've had all that happen. But they did learn how to deal with it. I mean, look, after SN10, they learned how to deal with fire, for instance, right? After landing. And SN15 is, on display. Now, so the thing about this that was actually quite interesting to me was that it went the way it did. Like, I remember when I first learned about the incident and how it went, I thought that what was happening, that the way, hey, what the heck? That didn't happen. That the way these things went, they didn't go like this. Like, maybe they explode, but they explode when the static fire went, not any other time. So I was kind of surprised. The big thing that surprised me though was that, like, the mass of the explosion. Like, it was a massive explosion. And it also, like, sat on fire for a while. So that is the first frame of the explosion. If I just kind of skip, wait. And, like, but in the next 5-second frame, it's gone. Next one, gone. Next one, gone. So, yeah. And for quite a while, you can't even see what is subliminal. Wait, there you go. I'll sit on this one now. So, I thought about a bunch when this came to this episode. Because I didn't know what I want to talk about. By the way, before any people ask, nobody was harmed, apart from maybe some bugs or whatnot in this explosion. Well, I mean, people somewhat harmed, but people, nobody was extremely hurt or damaged or anything like that. But what I think about it is simple. It happened. Explosions happen. Failures happen. And people, like, how many Falcon 9s they lost trying to land it? They lost a lot. But, like, that's the thing. when you're trying to do something insane, because trust me, Starship's insane. Even during these days, it was insane. You're gonna have stuff fail. You're gonna have explosions happen. You're gonna have all of that. And there's something you need to deal with. Like I said earlier, next episode will be a lot more normal, probably longer too. What I do know, one last thing I want to talk about, then I'm gonna wrap up the episode. But that'll happen right after this. So what do I want to talk about? Well, it's almost the end of school, and because of that, I will likely have some small schedule changes. As you know, for the last couple episodes, I've been trying to consistently get the episodes out on Fridays and Saturdays, right? Audio Saturday, video Friday. But I have a tendency of not doing that exactly. For instance, the past 2 weeks there hasn't been an episode at all. That is my fault. The first week because I wasn't even home, I was out of town, and last week because I was busy doing stuff for this episode. But now that school's over, and by the time the next episode comes out, I'll be done with school. Because of that, I've decided my schedule's gonna be a lot more exact. I will have the new video one out every Friday, and the new audio one out every Saturday. All done and recorded and all of that probably days prior, just to be sure it's good. So, that's not one thing I want to talk about though. One other thing. After next week, the week after next, specifically June 14th, 15th, and 16th, which is, by the way, a Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I'll be out of town. The reason? I'm going to SSBTA and City and all that. I'm not going to say where, but the reason I'm going over there is because, if you don't know, on June 15th, there was a Minotaur launch. If you don't know, I've never been to a rocket launch in my life. I've only ever seen model rocket launches that are mine, and any other rocket I have seen on screen. So, deal with it. So, what's going to happen is I'm going to go and I'm going to watch that. I might have photos of it. If I have any photos, it'll be like 1 or 2. They'll be on my website, on the page that is currently in the works. The page called Launch Photos page or something, Launch Photos, something like that. Look, so I'm gonna go there. I might get stuff of it. I don't know. We'll see. More days on that, when it happens. But that's it for this episode. It was pretty short. Didn't talk about much, but it was a super special episode to me. I will see you all next week. This is Joe, the Teenage Astronaut, signing off.